I want to tell you something that might genuinely shake something loose inside you. The people in your life who are the sharpest, the ones who can read a room instantly, see through people effortlessly, sense when something's off before anyone else does. They didn't learn that in a classroom. It is not some natural social gift they were born with. It was forged in pain, the way scar tissue forms after skin is torn open over and over. Hard, sensitive, and with a kind of resilience most people will never have. They were just trying to survive. They never realized that the traits that everyone around them called anxiety, oversensitivity, or overthinking were actually something rare. A kind of wisdom, trauma wisdom. If you've always felt like your brain works in a way that is hard for people to understand, if you're constantly observing, constantly analyzing, always 3 steps ahead in conversations, unusually tuned in to shifts in energy, and sometimes lonely because you see things so clearly, then this video might be the first time everything confusing about yourself finally makes sense. Signal number 1. You read people with an accuracy that almost feels unfair. This isn't cold reading, it is not a party trick. It is an instinct that lives in your bones. Someone walks into a room before they've said a word, and you've already picked up on details they haven't even registered in themselves. The slight strain in their smile, the quick flicker of avoidance in their eyes, shoulders held a little higher than last week, footsteps just a half beat slower than usual. You're not reasoning through it, you're not looking for evidence. You're not even trying, the answer just shows up in your head. And you're usually right enough that it sometimes scares you and the people around you. A lot of people envy this. They call it high emotional intelligence, good at reading people. But you know the truth, this was never a gift. It was a survival mechanism. Psychology calls it hyper-vigilance, and it is born in unstable, unpredictable environments. In a lot of families, kids grow up having to monitor a parent's emotional state, like it is their full-time job. Is dad calm when he comes home tonight? Or is he 3 drinks in and about to blow? Is mom in a good place? Or is she holding something back that is about to come out sideways? To stay safe, the brain adapts. Sensitivity to micro-expressions, tone of voice, and body language gets dialed all the way up. Once that is wired in, it doesn't just switch off. It follows you into college dorms, conference rooms, relationships. Even a quiet Tuesday afternoon can suddenly feel heavy, for no reason you can name. You're not imagining things. You're not overreacting. You learn to read everything around you because, at some point, you had to, just to get through the day. Signal number 2. You feel the truth before your logic can explain it. You have no evidence, but you know a friendship is ending. You haven't heard anything negative, but you can feel that something in a relationship has shifted in a way that can't be undone. You can't explain why, but something about a person, a place, or a situation felt wrong from the beginning. When you try to tell someone, all you can say is, "I just feel like something's off." And they look at you like you're paranoid, oversensitive, or pessimistic. And then, more often than not, you turn out to be right. This isn't mystical. It is not a sixth sense. It is what neuroscience tells us about trauma. Traumatic memories from childhood don't get stored in the brain the way ordinary memories do. Regular memories go through the language centers. You can describe them clearly, when it happened, where, what was said. But traumatic memories get encoded directly in the body, bypassing your conscious verbal system entirely. That is why your body tenses up, your heart races, and something feels deeply wrong before your rational mind even catches up. That is why you can sense danger or feel a shift in a relationship without a single piece of concrete evidence. Your nervous system is always running faster than your prefrontal cortex. What looks irrational to everyone else is actually a more primal, more efficient form of knowing your body is protecting you, remembering things on your behalf that you may have consciously forgotten long ago. Signal number 3. You have a much higher tolerance for complexity and moral ambiguity than most people. Most people want clean answers, tidy endings, clear-cut right and wrong. a villain they can point to, a win they can celebrate. They like the world organized and sorted. People filed into good or bad situations, filed into correct or incorrect. You've never been able to do that, and you stopped trying a long time ago. You understand that someone can love you and hurt you at the same time. That two completely opposite feelings can coexist. That something can be both right and wrong. That a relationship can be both warm and painful. You used to think that made you cold, cynical, or unprincipled. It doesn't. It means you were forced to grow up inside complexity. In a lot of families, the person who was supposed to protect you was also the person you were afraid of. The place that was supposed to feel safe was also full of uncertainty. That kind of environment produces a cognitive maturity that people raised in stable, straightforward homes rarely develop. Tolstoy once wrote that fragile systems collapse under uncertainty, while resilient systems adapt to it. Your brain with no one guiding you, no one explaining anything, built into that resilient system on its own. You're not afraid of chaos. You've actually gotten good at finding order inside it. That is why, when things get complicated, messy relationships, high-stakes decisions, situations with no clean answer, you're steadier than most, more clear-headed, less likely to get swept away by emotion. Signal number 4. Your empathy is so strong it drowns you. This isn't polite sympathy. It is not saying the right thing at the right moment. It is a full-body resonance. Someone else's pain lands in your chest. Your throat tightens. Your breathing gets heavier. A stranger's story on a screen hits you like it happened to you personally. Your friend is upset, but somehow you're the one who needs an hour to recover. You genuinely can't always tell which emotions are yours and which ones you absorbed from the room. Psychology calls this affective empathy, unconsciously mirroring another person's emotional state. Everyone has some capacity for it, but people who've been through trauma have it amplified to a degree most people can't imagine. The same hypervigilance that makes you so good at reading people also turns you into a sponge, soaking up every emotional signal in your environment. But I have to be honest with you about the cost. In situations that are completely safe, you'll sometimes misread a threat. In total silence, your brain will generate conflict that isn't there. You'll take on other people's burdens as if they're yours, carry guilt that was never yours to hold, and the constant state of high-alert scanning, even when nothing is actually wrong, leaves you exhausted in a way that is hard to explain. You haven't done anything, you're just tired all the way down. That is not a flaw, it is the other side of your gift. It is the real price of being this attuned. Signal number 5. You sabotage things right when they're about to get good. This one is the hardest to look at. You've worked toward something for a long time. A relationship, a job, a version of your life that finally feels right. Everything is moving in the right direction. Happiness is right there. And that is exactly when you start pulling back, doubting, picking fights that didn't need to happen, pushing people away, convincing yourself it is all going to fall apart anyway, leaving before you can be left. You don't want to lose it, you don't want to fail, but you can't stop yourself. Psychologists call this self-defeating behavior, and it comes down to something called the window of tolerance. If your childhood didn't have a stable, safe foundation, then calm or happiness can actually feel like warning signs. Because in your memory, quiet was never really quiet. It was just the silence before something broke. You don't distrust happiness because you don't want it. You distrust it because you've never fully believed it would stay. People will call you self-destructive, ungrateful, too emotional. But they don't understand. You're not trying to ruin good things. You're running a survival program that got written into your brain a long time ago. Get out before it gets dangerous. Leave before you get hurt. Recognizing this matters because it is how you stop turning it against yourself. There is nothing wrong with you. You're just someone carrying old wounds, doing your best to live in the present. Signal number 6. You can't stop asking why. Not as a philosophical exercise. As a reflex, you can't turn off. Why did he say it in that tone? Why does this feel so familiar? Why did I react that way? What does that reaction actually mean? You apply the same rigor most people reserve for work projects and data analysis to your own inner world. Other people's motivations, the hidden meaning in ordinary moments. You can't let it go. You have to find the meaning. You have to find the reason. You have to understand. This is one of the most well-documented outcomes of early adversity. Psychology calls it post-traumatic growth. Research consistently finds that people who faced significant difficulty early in life tend to develop greater existential depth, richer inner lives, and a stronger drive to find meaning. Viktor Frankl wrote about this in Man's Search for Meaning, that human beings have a fundamental instinct to find meaning inside suffering, a brain that was once forced to search for an explanation. Inside senseless pain will carry that searching instinct throughout its life. It doesn't always find answers, but the act of asking relentlessly, honestly, deeply, already makes you more awake than most people. You don't accept easy answers. You don't get swept along by whatever everyone else believes. You always have your own thinking. You're always looking for what is actually true. Signal number 7. You have extraordinary self-awareness, and you still can't stop repeating the same patterns. You know yourself better than almost anyone. You can name every pattern, trace them back to their source, explain them clearly to a therapist or a close friend, organized, articulate, completely lucid. You know why you pull back. You know why certain things make you flinch. You know why happiness scares you. You know why your brain won't stop running. And yet, you still end up in the same loops. You still lose it at the worst possible moment. You still get pulled back into the old reactions, even when you can see it happening in real time. That gap between knowing and actually changing is the most heartbreaking part of trauma wisdom. A lot of people believe that once you understand a problem, you can fix it. But awareness isn't healing. Awareness is the starting point. An incredibly important one, but the brain doesn't update through insight alone. It updates through repeated new experiences. Through the body, slowly learning different responses. Through time, gradually rewriting old patterns. Don't punish yourself for not changing overnight. You're already doing something remarkable. You're carrying this much unprocessed feeling, this much sensitivity, this much history, and you're still here. You never fully gave up on yourself. That alone is a kind of strength most people will never understand. If you've been seeing yourself in these 7 signals, I want to say something directly to you. You are not broken. You are not abnormal. You are not defective. The anxiety, the sensitivity, the overthinking, the emotional intensity, the self-doubt, none of that is your fault. It is all part of the most sophisticated survival system your mind could build, given what it had to work with. You're not too fragile. You're incredibly resilient. You're not too strange. You're genuinely rare. You don't lack talent. You carry one of the most uncommon, most profound, most powerful forms of intelligence there is, trauma wisdom. This world has a habit of rewarding people who are numb, who go along with things, who don't feel too much. And it tends to make the sensitive, the clear-eyed, and the deep-feeling ones carry the loneliness and the pain. But please believe this, your clarity is not wasted. Your depth is not wasted. Your pain is not wasted. Everything you've been through is shaping you into someone who understands people at a level most will never reach. Someone who can find light in the dark, who knows themselves and knows others in a way that can't be taught. If this video hit something real in you, if this is the first time you've felt genuinely seen and understood, please give it a like and drop a comment telling me which signal resonated most with you. You don't have to carry any of this alone. There are a lot of people here who feel exactly the way you do, and we can understand and show up for each other. If you don't want to miss future content on trauma healing, self-growth, and the psychology of how we're wired, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video that might actually help. I'll keep showing up here with content that is honest, grounded in real science, and genuinely warm, to help you see yourself more clearly, accept yourself more fully, and heal at your own pace. You are not alone. Let's keep going together.